handful of people asking me about what to do when their kid has a bad performance, how to handle that, how to help them get sort of over the hump after that experience, and then what is the point of performing. And honestly, I love talking about this because I don't think that there's a whole lot of topics that are as important as this one. When our kids fail, what do we do? And how big of a deal is it? When do we talk to them about it? That kind of thing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Great question. How do you know when you're ready? Oh, Cassie, that's fantastic. Great question. So how do you know when they're ready? Are they asking to perform? Are they nervous? How nervous are they really? So as a teacher, if they're like, go hide under the bed nervous, maybe not yet. If they're kind of like most kids and they're generally okay with it, now, honestly, if they are performing in the right performance. So we do community performances, which are really low key. And we go to nursing homes, assisted living facilities, outdoor locations. Those types of performances, I say they can play a scale. They could play a song from their lesson book. They could goof off and write something in the moment. The experience of playing for a really joyful audience that just wants to hear something and see cute kids is really, really great. So that's very different. Now, how about the recital? Are they ready to perform in a formal recital? We do those in May or June of every year. Those take a lot of preparation. And I would say they need to have at least 3 months of lessons before they would perform in that. For my beginners, I have them just play something from their lesson book, and we keep the stakes really, really low. So your child's almost always ready to perform. That would be my opinion. Cassie, does that help? Did you want to share more information about the situation? I know that we get nervous. We want our kids to have like this huge bucket list kind of song ready. Honestly, I think the more you get out there, the better. I would rather my kids and my students have more low stakes performances under their belt where they just knock it out of the park and then go do this perform bigger pieces. They're harder. Everybody's there for that one. It's more formal and stoic, and it's really obvious this is sort of the big deal. I think they're set up to enjoy that more. So that was a great question. If you have questions, just send them in. I would love to share a question that really started my thoughts on this discussion. She's 5.5. Low-key option. Yes. Perfect. Alexia. Awesome. Hello. How can I handle when I can't be there to support a student? Oh, that's a great question. So if your teacher isn't there, which often happens, so especially in an academy, your 12 students or 25 students could be spread out across many recitals, and teachers can't go to all the recitals. It's just not possible. So we trust the director of the company to lead that performance. I would say share any specifics about a student who's super nervous with the person that is hosting the recital. That's really important. If a teacher says to me, hey, the student's super nervous, could you encourage her before she goes up? Or could you just watch, and if you think she needs help, dive in? Or could you sit next to my student? It's the first time they're performing. Cassie, if your student, 5.5 and first recital, is really nervous to perform, your teacher can sit up there. The mom can sit up there. I will tell you that I've never had a student who's been nervous to perform and was convinced to do it, even if their teacher or their parent sat next to them. I've never had them say, please sit up the second time. Once they do it the first time, they're like, oh, I got this. Old hat. This is easy. So that was a great question. I hope that was helpful, Alexia. And I guess the other idea with supporting your students as a teacher would be, could you maybe prepare the parents to help the student and maybe even verbally prepare the student in advance, so prepare in their minds what they can be expecting. I love to do dress rehearsals with the students, have them sit on the couch, and then I call their name and they come to the piano. They have to bring their music, put it on the piano. Honestly, the little fine motor skills of taking my music and put it on the piano and sit down and get comfortable, you have to practice that. We forget about that as teachers, that those little movements are needed. And if we're not focused because we're just super nervous, all of those things take so much energy and focus. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I had a parent message earlier in the week, and they said, my 10-year-old messed up her piano recital and wants to quit. She has been playing for 5 years and she's a perfectionist. Any of us who have perfectionist kids, often our firstborns, we can feel that. She said, I'm glad she's experiencing failures because I hope she'll stop being so hard on herself, but she's losing sleep over her mistake. And I need some tips on how to handle this because I don't want her to have low self-esteem. Honestly, that is a parenting, that's what we're all dealing with, right? We all have a kid who is so hard on themselves. So how do we help them? And I had to really think about this one because as a teacher, we're not just looking at the music and the topic at hand, we're looking at the whole child. And then I'm a parent and I'm a homeschool parent. So I'm kind of looking at all the angles. So my first thought was, if your kid does mess up, so Cassie, your 5.5-year-old performs for the first time and she messes up and she says, I don't want to. Hello, welcome. I don't want to do this. I messed up. I'm bad, whatever. Let them sit in it for a moment. Sometimes as parents, we immediately try to change their perspective. But sometimes you just gotta bite your tongue and sit with them until they're ready for you to speak into it. First thing I would do is actually encourage my students, if they've failed, to consider what they love about their instrument. And most students will tell me they love to play by themselves most. That's really important. So why would you quit piano after 5 years because you performed poorly for a moment, a split second, in front of a bunch of people? That doesn't make sense. That didn't ruin the whole relationship. So I would work on rebuilding that love in her mind. So maybe we move her keyboard into her bedroom so she's not feeling judged. She can just play on her own. I love to give them that reminder that really expressing for ourselves is the reason we all love music. We don't do it for other people. That's sort of just that's the next thing. It's first for us. So next, our kids, and for us, this is really important. Your value is not tied to how well you do something. If I get up and fail, that does not mean I'm less valuable. I'm less great. So too often our kids are connecting their self-esteem and how much they value themselves or think other people value them, it's based on how they perform. And that is highly problematic, which I'm going to skip to now growth mindset. It's really important. If you don't know about growth mindset and you're a parent and a teacher, you need to go look this up because it's really changed my whole parenting and teaching life. Growth mindset says you're going to fail as you learn something new. So what? Keep going. It's not a big deal. It is expected. Move on. Keep going because it'll get better. But too many times we get so worried because we made a mistake and, oh, I'm not good enough, or she did it better than I did, so clearly I'm not a piano player, right? We've got to change that speech in their brain, sort of that inner talk, that inner voice, right? So we can do that by praising their effort and not how well they did. And this is hard. As a teacher, as a parent, your first thing would be like, oh, you did so good. That's actually against the growth mindset, believe it or not. You're supposed to praise how hard they worked, how much effort they put into it. And it does make sense when you think about the fact that we're all going to fail. I make mistakes all the time when I'm playing the piano or singing. Most of the time people don't notice it because I don't let it derail me, and they're not that big of mistakes usually. But I hope that that's helpful. Look that up. Now, anxiety is another big one. So why are they messing up? Was it that they were anxious? And as a singer, breath work was really, really important for me. Just learning the little tips and tricks to breathe and get the air in and kind of calm myself so that I didn't have the butterfly in my voice all the time. And it still comes back sometimes. That one's really tricky. On piano, it's the shaking hand, the sweating hands. Oh, that one's bad. So we've just got to sort of call it out. Okay, this is normal. It's okay. Have other teachers or other students tell this young lady, hey, me too. I've been there. Oh man, my hands sweat. Normalize it. It's okay. Practice, practice, practice. So I think a lot of the times we get anxious because we really should have practiced more. And that is a good lesson for our kids. We have another question. How can I share with my students and parents that a performance is not the only indicator of total progress over the semester? 100%. How many times I've had a parent say, I just felt like that piece wasn't that awesome. So maybe this isn't the right thing for her to be doing. Or the opposite, right? Oh, yeah, you should have seen those other kids. My kid was amazing. Oh, yeah, my kid's doing so good. That's not what it's about. So as a teacher, we see all the little wins. What I would say to that question as a teacher, if I can communicate with parents regularly, telling them all the little wins that they don't see. They're obvious to me. I'm teaching them music. I'm there with them every week. Gosh, did you notice how I couldn't even get little Allison to sing a note to me the first time I came here? And now she's singing up a storm. Like, she's just always singing. She doesn't need me to sing with her anymore. She's very confident. As a parent, what is more important than my child feeling confident enough to share her voice and try things out when she wouldn't even creak it out a little bit in front of somebody else a month ago? That's a huge win. We don't really think about sharing that with parents. Sometimes parents don't see those things. How about the scale that you've been teaching a student? Getting them to flip their hand on finger 3 and hold that 3 down and pivot with it. Maybe that was super painful. It just wasn't working and you had to try all these things. And finally, it clicked for the student. Why not share those little wins along the way? Other ways to maybe convince parents and students that performance in a recital isn't the only indicator of success. That's a really good one. I guess I'd have to think about that one a little bit more. I think communication, like I said, communicating with them, and maybe having them do performances of their regular pieces sometimes for you or for the parents. So they're having some like low key performances and just showing off. Or how about just praise the student's progress with their pieces as they're going? I think that's more like my first initial thought. So that's a good one. I'll have to think more. You're right. We do have to share the smaller wins. We always think other people see the things we see. No, they don't. As a teacher, that is so evident. I was just talking to someone earlier. We're trying to figure out how to train something that she and we had no problem with, but somebody else doesn't see it. So we have to think about it from a whole nother perspective. That's the great part about being a teacher. We are consistently challenged with that. So we were talking about anxiety. We have to practice a lot more than we think we do. We have to practice a ton. I like to think if I'm not perfect 2 weeks out, I'll give myself another week. If I'm not perfect 1 week out, there's no shot. You're not going to perfect something in a week. Your fine motor skills take time, effort, and energy over time. And that is what's going to build that up. So we often think, oh, if I can just have it done the day before. It's not how it works, I promise. When you get to professional level, you can sight read, you can sight sing. That is different, but not for students. They need to be perfected well before. Doing things over and over again. Oh yeah, so if you fail at a big performance, which I have, I'm about to share a little bit of a embarrassment with you, but if you fail and then you stop, it is now this big dark thing hanging over you that will affect you for the rest of your life. I'm a parent. I don't want that for my kid. I want my kid to be like, oh, I failed. I'm going to try again. How did I fail? How can I fix it? We're going to do this again. So we've got to keep them on the horse, right? Small wins is much better than a big one. So have them perform for their friend. Have them perform on Zoom for grandparents who live in another country. Just keep it going. Go to community performances. We have a lot of low-key performances for this reason. Anxiety is not reducing in our kids, unfortunately. Studies are showing it is increasing. And it's what is it, a quarter of all of the kids in the world are expected to have high levels of anxiety and mental issues. That's horrible. So we want to be building a confidence. It's just an inner confidence so that they can get through things. And believe it or not, these music lessons translate to everything else. My embarrassing stories, I have been laughed at by the entire crowd, and I was not making jokes. I was singing. Yes, hello, welcome for joining. Anybody here, you're welcome to send in a question, type it in about performance anxiety. I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I host a lot of recitals. How do we handle our kids making mistakes and maybe not wanting to play anymore? Or how do I help them be successful in their recital performances, that kind of a thing. But I have had some doozies. I could easily say most people who saw the doozies that I've made would understand if I never played music again. That is not the case, because I'm here in front of you. I'm 41 years old. I performed thousands of times in lots of instruments, and most of those, half of those came after the most embarrassing moment of my life. But I have had times where I ran and locked myself in the car and had to wait 3 hours until that performance was over to get home and just hope nobody would see me as they walked by the car. That's how bad it was. And I'm still here. So share your failures and normalize it, because it is normal. And then lastly, if we make a mistake, when we're ready and the wound isn't fresh, we need to make a plan. So did they need to prepare more? When they're ready, they're going to be willing to hear that, or to talk about it with you, or to maybe self-assess that. Maybe they should be ready well in advance. I had to learn that by having horrible performances, and I've watched my students go through it. It's painful. You can't keep your kids and your students from going through painful lessons, but you can guide them through it, okay? Was the song too hard? That actually is a really important one. I think if you're a parent, you might not know this, but we don't, as teachers, we're not arrangers. We're not all geniuses on that song is going to be the perfect level for that student. At Shining Star Music Academy, we use curriculum that is very easy to get right 99% of the time. The variables, though, are even if I pick a song that's perfect, if the student doesn't practice according to what I've seen in the past and expect from them, then they're going to be behind. It might not work, right? So it's not as simple as did they do it or did they not do it. Sometimes the song was too hard, or they got too far behind and it was never going to work, right? And then do they need to learn how to handle anxiety? That all can be really, really helpful. Does your music school have recitals? I hope so. And I hope that they're being led in a very positive way, that the environments are enjoyable and maybe less stoic, at least sometimes. I've tried really hard in our academy that we are engaging and positive, and I always say it's not a golf clap recital, right? I want to hear woo woo and big claps and standing ovations, if you will. I want this to be really enjoyable and fun. And sometimes you're going to have those really golf clap recitals where everybody's fallen asleep and maybe they lasted 3 hours. We don't do that here because I want our experiences to be positive. They can be more stoic sometimes, but it can still be, not so much pressure on you to like everybody's just staring at you and crickets are chirping. Regardless of how the students do, recitals are very, very important for them. They build their confidence. They help them learn how to plan and prepare. They give them experience in front of others, and they help with sharing what they love, like learning how to communicate what I love with other people. Those 4 things I just mentioned are huge in business. They are huge in all of the jobs that we have as grown-ups. So I'm not talking about performing piano. I'm talking about building a well-rounded, confident, successful human being who will grow up an adult very well. So I'm gooey about this stuff. I think it's all just I think I have the most important job under the sun. So if you have other questions, you can email me at hello@shiningstarmusicacademy.com anytime. And then if you are interested in lessons, we teach online. We are Step Up Scholarship Direct providers. If you have that, you know what that means. We are online at www.shiningstarmusicacademy.com. We teach in person in Gainesville, Jacksonville, I can do this, Ocala, North Orlando. And if you're interested, I'd love to chat with you. Any of our teachers who are on our call team, we are here to chat. So you can set a call. It's the button that's all over the homepage. We're glad to speak with you. Help see if we can get you connected with a great teacher. We teach all sorts of instruments. And if you're a parent who has questions or you need a little bit of assistance, you want an evaluation for your student who's in our academy, reach out anytime. We are here to help you. It's been a blast. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great day.